All right, this is a short video about how to make a graph that meets my expectations in plant biology. All right, so up on the screen here, I have a graph that has the hallmarks of an acceptable graph. All right, we have both axes are labeled and have units shown in parentheses after the label. The X and Y axis both have tick marks and a reasonable number of tick labels, which are these numbers here, and on the y-axis, these numbers here. And these right here, 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 and here are the tick marks on the y-axis, as an example. All right, we also have means shown here as the bars, and then we are also showing an estimate of the variability of the data around the means. Those are all required for a good graph. The other thing you notice in terms of the formatting is that all the lines are thick and black, not in the default gray that Excel always makes graphs in. All the numbers and the labels are all in black. So no excessive use of color and no excessive use of gray when we can use black. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to make a graph that looks like this. First, I'm going to get rid of this graph here. And I'm going to remove this data here. And you'll recognize this data is the germination data that we collected the other day. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to copy these calculated values here. So I'm going to highlight it and then I'm going to hit Control Alt. I'm going to highlight it, hit Control C and copy it over to here. And now instead of pasting, I'm going to paste special. I'm going to go there and I'm going to paste in the values, and that will strip off the formulas that are used to calculate those values. And so we only end up with the actual numbers. Now I'm going to calculate this. I'm going to copy this column over as well. And that one we can just copy across because there are no formulas. All right, so now I have nice, clean, formula-free data, which I'm going to use to make this graph. First, I'm going to highlight this set of this column here with the means in it. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to insert a chart, as it's called here in Excel. And I have to select which type. And for this one, as you saw before, I'm going to select the bar chart. And I'm going to select a simple 2D. And move that down over here. And you can see it looks very different than the final graph that I showed. All right, so we're going to move from the outside inward, making all the modifications to finalize this graph. All right, so to start out with, we're going to add axis labels. So I'm going to go here onto the plus, and then I'm going to check this box here called axis titles. All right, and then oh, didn't mean to do that. I'm going to highlight that axis title text, and then I'm going to label this one NaCl. And then the units here are grams per liter. So I first type the -1, and then I go back in, highlight that -1, go up here to underneath the Home tab, go to the font, and hit superscript. Okay, and so that'll give us the correct superscript. Highlight this again. Now we're going to make that text is actually gray. Now we're going to make it black, and we're going to increase its size to 14. So older folks like I can actually read that text. All right. Now we're going to go over here to this axis title. And we're going to change this one to germination. And then what we're plotting here is the number out of 10 seeds that germinated. And then we want to highlight it again, convert that text to black, and then increase its size to 14 points. All right. Now we're also going to remove this title here. We don't need that because we're not going to use this graph in a poster, but rather it's going to be used in a report. All right. So now we're going to move inward. We've got our axis titles in place. Now we're going to go to this axis down here, and notice that right now it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have to actually add these correct labels in. So the way we do that, we go down here to this, right over here, we go down here, select data, and then we are going to edit the horizontal category axis labels, which we want to switch. Right now they're just 1, 2, 3, 4. They're put in default because Excel had no information what it should put there because we originally only highlighted that single column. So we click that, edit, and then we highlight these numbers here and hit OK. And so now they've been added to the graph. So now we want to format this axis. I'm going to move that over so we can see the entire graph. And now the first thing we want to do is we want to add tick marks to this axis. We go there to tick marks, and then we select major type, and we select cross. Now we want to modify other features about this axis. So we're going to go to line. Notice that I was initially over here in this area, and I clicked over here, and then I selected line. We want to increase the size of that line to 1.5, and then we're going to remember everything is going to be black, not default gray. All right. So we've modified that axis. Now we want to finish up by increasing the font size of those tick labels to 12. And we want to make them black and not gray. All right, now we're going to move to the y-axis. And notice when I just click anywhere on here and we have that format ribbon over on the right, when I change it, we can modify different things. So if I now click right over here, now we're modifying the y-axis and not the x-axis. All right, so we do want the line there, a solid line. It's going to be black, and we want it to be 1.5 point. Now we need to add tick marks. So notice I just clicked over here to these axis options, tick marks, and then we're going to select cross. All right, so if you notice that y-axis looks very busy, and so we want to reduce the number of ticks and tick mark labels. So the way we do that is we go here to axis options and we highlight the major units. Right now, there's a tick mark at every major unit at one intervals. So now we want that interval to be larger. So I'm going to type it at 2 there. And see, now we've spread them out and it doesn't look as busy. To finally make the final changes on this axis, we're going to increase the font size to 12, and we're going to again, turn those numbers black from gray. All right, now we're going to get rid of these grid marks. We do not want any additional ornamentation. That's not necessary. And finally, if you remember the original example, graph had a box all the way around the graph. I happen to like that. So I'm clicking in this area here, and now it's allowing me to format the plot area rather than here, it's the data series, here, it's the axis. So going back here to the format plot area, and I'm going to select this bucket there. And now I want a solid line around the outside. And nope, not that. I want to change this to 1.5. All right. So now we have all the axis in the box, axis labels. Now we're going to move in here to the data series. Now remember I said it is very important to always show an estimate of the variability of the means as well as the means themselves. And in order to do that, we want to add error bars. And so we're going to highlight, I'm going to click on one of the bars and then it'll highlight all of them. And then we're going to go over here and add a chart element. We're going to add error bars. And it's very important to know what numbers you're using as error bars. Excel will put in all kinds of error bars if you ask it to, like standard errors here, or percentage, or standard deviation. But really, it's very hard to figure out where those numbers are coming from. And so I advocate that you only add error bars where you've calculated the correct number yourself. And in this case, we have the numbers we want to use right up here as standard error. We're going to use those for the error bars. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm not going to select standard error, the default that Excel will put in for me. I really don't know where those numbers are coming from. I'm going to go down here to more options, and I'm going to go into this area here and select custom. Then I'm going to hit specify value. And now it opens this box over here. And notice that it has positive error value and negative error value. And so now I'm going to highlight these numbers here, and it's going to add those up here. And so that is the numbers for the positive direction of the error bar. And now we have to highlight the negative error values, remove that, and then again, highlight the same numbers again. That's a little odd, but it allows you to have an error bar that's asymmetrical. In our case, they won't be asymmetrical. We're going to highlight the same numbers 2 times in a row, once up here and then once again down here, and both times these numbers here. All right, so now it's added error bars that we've calculated ourselves, and we know where those numbers came from. Now we have to, you guessed it, thicken up the lines again, right? And we're gonna, that's gray, it's not black, we're gonna convert them to black. All right, finally a little bit of formatting here on the data series. Gonna highlight them again. Notice I clicked onto a bar, clicked onto the bar, it selects the whole one, the whole series. And now I'm gonna add a solid line around the outside, and I'm going to make it 1.5 points, and it is a black line. Now I'm going to go up here and select fill, and I'm going to get rid of that unnecessary color and make it a drab scientific gray. All right. And now we have a graph that's really starting to look good. No extra ornamentation, but notice how there's quite a bit of empty space here between the bars. And there is a way to change that. If we again select by clicking on a bar and then going over, once we get format data series, and then we select over here, we can actually change that gap width. We can reduce it. I'm going to select something more like that, more so that we have a little bit fatter bars and not these huge gaps in between, which is just wasted space. Might even make the graph a little bit smaller like that. All right, there's one more thing I wanted to share with you. Actually, two. All right, first of all, you see this border around the outside of the entire graph? Well, when you copy this into a Word document to add the caption, this line will still be there. And you don't really want that there. It's an extraneous line around your graph, and it'll separate your graph from the caption. And so we want to get rid of that. And so to get rid of it, we select the entire graph area. We can right click to get the format chart area. And then we are going to, for border here, we're going to select no line. And now when I click off, see how that line is no longer there? So now when you copy it into Word to put the caption underneath it, you won't have this odd thin line around your graph. Now the other thing I wanted to tell you was that when you go to copy this into Word, that I suggest that when you go to paste it into Word, that you paste it as a picture rather than as a linked object to your Excel spreadsheet. Once you paste it in as a picture, there will be no links back to your spreadsheet, and it will be not change oddly when you resize it, etc. So that's one final tip. All right, now I'm really done. Good luck.